Hi, I'm Z Garcia, and you're watching The Dice Tower.
Hi, I'm Eric Summerer, and here's what's coming from The Dice Tower this week.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here for October 28th, 2013, and it's time to talk about board gaming news and Dice Tower news in general. Now, the big news obviously is that Essen, the big fair, the Spiel Fair, happened last week. Over the weekend, it's done and over with, and there are now like 700 or 800 new games on the market. And so we'll be talking about as many of those as we possibly can. We'll be talking about a few this week, more next week, and etc. I'll be trying to get the hottest ones reviewed as quickly as we possibly can so you can see what those are like. Speaking of which, this week for me personally is going to be a busier week than normal. I build the world's largest box maze, a maze that kids crawl through for our school's annual Harvest Festival. So that's going to take up a good chunk of my time this week, but don't fear. There's plenty of content from our other contributors. I believe I have 13 videos so far from them, and I will be doing a few reviews of my own. Hopefully we'll continue on with the top 100 list, and you just might see a top 10. Something that's like, well, that's almost as much as we do every week anyway. It's my review output will be down this week, but, well, I'll talk more about that in reviews. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is the People's Choice. I recorded the People's Choice Top 100 in 2 videos. We did it live, a new experiment where I did the first half in one video and the second half in another video. In the second half, from 50 to 1, which several of you watched, I changed a lot of the video settings so that it would stream faster. Well, as I found out, it didn't really stream any faster and apparently caused some sort of problems with that video. Last weekend, YouTube seemed to be having a lot of problems anyway. And so that video, while I can still watch it, it seems like most people can't, and it's just difficult to find. In general, it doesn't even show up on the Dice Tower website. I can't figure out why. Problem is, I decided not to record it onto my computer while doing that because I thought that would be a waste of space. And again, I was trying to streamline it, and I said it was already going to be on YouTube, so why record it a second time? That would have been good for me to record it a second time because I could have uploaded it. Now it may be lost forever. So I haven't yet decided how I'm going to fix this problem. YouTube's customer service isn't the greatest in the world. I do not have the know-how to be able to pull the video off. I tried to pull it off the internet, so there seems to be errors, and so it may be gone. So what am I going to do? I might re-record it, do it again, although obviously the surprise would be gone for everybody who's already seen it. I don't know at this point, especially since we're crushed for time this week. But people keep emailing me and saying, where is it? It's gone. And I'm really sorry. So we'll try to get it fixed, and I'll try not to make that mistake again in the future. All right, on to board game news. Right into board gaming news. First of all, a couple new things on Kickstarter that might be of interest to you. Dice Hate Me Games is a new game called Brew Crafters. Now, some people have compared this to Agricola who have played the game. The game looks fantastic. It's a game about making and producing different kinds of beer, and so you can check that out on Kickstarter. Also, not a game, but a book on Kickstarter, Board Games That Sell Stories. It's by Ignacy Trzewiczek. He's gonna, every time I mispronounce his last name, he will make it into some sort of audio file. But he is the head of Portal Games. He's a wonderful guy, designer of Robinson Crusoe, has a lot of fun. And he's written a blog on Board Game Geek that a lot of people like to read about games, and so he's compiling that into a book so that you can get that. Other games that are coming out in the future, we have Ascension Year 1 Collector's Edition. This is coming out in December. It's going to have 322 foil cards, all foil cards. Basically, it's the first couple sets and all the promos from the first year of Ascension coming out in one set, along with a cultist bobblehead, because doesn't every game need one of those? Other things coming out. November, very soon, Tokaido Crossroads expansion. If you like the game of Tokaido, there's going to be another expansion with more cards. Also from Funforge, Quantum, which is a little space game that uses dice as spaceships. And then in February, Upper Deck is going to be releasing a new expansion for Marvel Legendary Spider-Man set, which from the picture, I can see that there's 5 new heroes in the game, so I know that there's going to be the black-suited Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Moon Knight, and Black Cat. I do not know who the 5th one is, although they might have 2 versions of Spider-Man. That might be my guess. They're also going to have 2 new master villains. They've said that one is going to be Carnage. I would assume the other one would be one of these 3. Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin. My money's kind of on Green Goblin because he's one of Spider-Man's most annoying enemies. Or, maybe the 5th one is Venom. Venom's kind of a hero, bad guy. Who knows? But anyway. And then the other one, maybe Mr. Negative. That'd be a cool master villain, actually. Okay, I'm geeking out on my Marvel side here. News of the week was announced at the Essen Fair, and that was that Mayfair Games announced that they now have a controlling interest in Lookout Games. Lookout Games is a company that has made such fantastic games as Agricola and Le Havre. Up to this point, they've apparently had some sort of relationship with Z-Man Games, and Z-Man Games has brought over several of their games, including, I believe, the one they just released. But we wondered why Caverna wasn't being in the Z-Man lineup, and that's obvious now because Mayfair essentially owns Lookout Games. And they said that they're going to let Lookout Games run and do their own game designs and their own artwork. They're just going to be bringing their games to America. And this is going to start with some of the newer games from Lookout Games, Caverna, Bremenhaven, Carnickel. So you'll start seeing these games come. Now this is good and a mixture of good and bad news for everybody involved. The good news is Mayfair is a fantastic supplier of games. They're going to get these games here. You are no longer going to say, I can't find Caverna. You're going to be able to find it. It's going to be out there. Mayfair does, and they advertise their games. Mayfair does a good job at promoting their games, and that's great to see these games get out. And as the contracts for other games like Agricola and Le Havre run out, possibly we'll see these games under the Mayfair label too, and that's exciting that we'll be able to find them very easily. Now, Mayfair does keep a pretty close guard on their prices, so that's going to mean you're not going to find these games very inexpensively. Mayfair also has an exclusive deal with Alliance Distribution, which some people don't like that exclusivity of distributor at the same time too. So it's not all wonderful news, but I think it is good, solid news that we're going to see these games and get them a lot faster. Because if you guys remember, when Agricola first came out, we waited a long time. Z-Man did a big pre-order system. Maybe we would bring Agricola to America, maybe not. And I'm glad that they did. But see, Caverna, which just came out, will be in America, I believe, next month, which is a pretty fast turnaround. Dice Tower Network this week. Dice Tower number 328 is coming out Tuesday. We'll talk about games that we replaced, and yet we kept them anyway. On Board Games number 119 talks with Tiffany Ralph, and they talk about being a game enabler, or how to get people into gaming. Plaidette number 111 talks about creating a game night. Flip the Table number 40 talks about several games from the Price is Right game show. Those are fun games, so maybe those will work well. The Long View takes a look at Andy and Abyss and the card game genre that's involved with. Rolling Dice and Taking Names number 25 does a Halloween episode and talks a little bit about games from Essen. Board Game University, coming out this Thursday, we're going to be interviewing Gordon Lamont from Fragor Games, and they just released Mush Mush. And let's see, Blue Peg, Pink Peg, they talk about several games, including Nothing Personal. Happy Mitten, number 15, or number 5, or I don't remember what number it is, but either way, they talk with Bo Ragdakovich he's the producer of Tabletop with Will Wheaton, and Game Pit 14.4 takes a look at some more Essen games like Canterbury and Caverna and stuff like that. My question of the week comes from Jeremy, and he's asking he asked us several things. First of all, he asked if I would review all the Carcassonne expansions. Well, I have all of the Carcassonne expansions, and I've reviewed, I think, all of them at least in written form. We will do video reviews of them someday in the future, but it will come at a point when maybe we have less games than we have now. I actually keep a written listing here of all the games that I need to review and play, and so I don't lose track of different games when they come in. And right now, we are at almost 85 games that need to be reviewed. So that needs to be cut down a bit before we add in the Carcassonne expansions. But they're coming. He also said that from someplace online you can buy an extra set of meeples for Carcassonne, have a 7th player. What would I think about that? Well, I actually prefer playing Carcassonne with 2 people. That's my favorite way to play it. But I don't mind playing with more. I played it with 6 once or twice. I don't know that I would want to play with that again. It's just too long of a game at that point, and you have to wait for 6 people to place a tile before it's your turn. Adding a 7th person, nah, I wouldn't really want to do that. And then he thinks that farms are overpowered, and how can you stop that? If farms are overpowered, and I never thought they were, even in the original game, farms are certainly powerful, and you can score a lot of points with them. But once you start adding in expansions, farms are just another blip on the map. They're important, you can get points through them, but you can get some, once you add in those expansions, you can really score a lot of points from cities. You can do some cool things with roads. I just think that the game itself is pretty balanced that way, and I think farms aren't the easiest thing to explain to people, but I don't think they're overpowered. So those are our questions from Jeremy. I mentioned earlier that my review output was going to be lower this week. These are the games that I'm planning on reviewing this week. We'll have to wait and see if I can pull them off. I have the String Safari, which is a fun string game. You'll have to see that. Dice Farmer, which has 18-sided dice in it. Woo! Sloop, a card game. We have Don Borico. Acorn Rolling Down, it says on the front. Veritas from Mayfair Games. We have, this one just came out and got some good buzz at the Essen Fair, and that's You Go, kind of a trick-taking game. Then the new Martin Wallace game, Terry Pratchett, Witches. And from WizKids, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And then finally, I'll be taking a look at the new expansion for Mice and Mystics, Heart of Glurm. At least, these are what I hope to get out. I will do them as quickly as I possibly can. But to make up for the smaller amount of reviews this week, next week I'll try to review 20 games so we can start catching up. Lots of great games coming out, folks. There's a couple games that I'm going to be reviewing probably next week. There's one that just really, really blew me away with how much fun it was. I'll give you a hint, it's a cooperative game, but you have to wait until then to find out. I take a look at one of the shelves in my collection and tell you why I keep the games on that shelf. This is a big shelf. In fact, it's probably stacked too high, and it's not stacked very neatly, which will bother everyone who has OCD. Actually bothers me a little bit, but some of these games, I don't know why it's stacked like this. I'll fix it, okay? Give me some chance. Sorry Sliders, a great game. Lots of fun, dexterity-wise. It's the poor man's crokinole, but it does work really well in that regard. Dungeon Twister Prison is Dungeon Twister 2, although I have everything from Dungeon Twister 1 in there also, since they are completely compatible. That's a lot of fun. Star Wars Queen's Gambit is a great 2-player game. I guess you can play 4 players, but basically a 2-player game. I did a review on this a while ago. Just the components are stunning. I'll probably never get rid of this one just because it's so hard to get. Pathfinder, the new adventure card game. This is a new game that's been added to the collection. Great fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the new adventure packs change it. Lords of Waterdeep, of course, with the expansion inside there. Just an absolutely fantastic game. Worker placement game. Robinson Crusoe, I do like Robinson Crusoe quite a bit. From Portal, just a cooperative game in which I'm still going to win someday. But I love the theme and I love how it works. Monopoly Tropical Tycoon, you can laugh all you want. You can say, I can't believe, Vasel, you have a Monopoly game, but that means you haven't tried this one. This is the best Monopoly thing there is. And you say, well, it's the best of the worst. Whatever. Try it. It's quite a good game. Duck Duck Safari, and that's driving us crazy because that's smaller than Illustrations. Okay, don't worry. Nothing important fell there. But Illustrations is a great party game, and Duck Duck Safari has a lot of great kids games in it. Besides, it comes with these really cool mini duck animals here. Barbecue Party is one of my kids' favorite party games, so we keep that one, along with the Three Little Pigs, which is a brand new little bookshelf game. I really want to put that somewhere else on the bookshelf, but for right now, that's where it gets stuck. Agents of Smersh, a storytelling spy game, Castle Panic, a great cooperative game. This red and black box has my Netrunner stuff in it. Black Secret, a fantastic cooperative game. Rolling Freight, a heavy Eurogame train game. And Killer Bunnies, well, that's a guilty pleasure game for me. I do enjoy it, and besides, inside this box is a ton of Killer Bunny stuff. So this is just such a really interesting mix of games. I think I got a super strong Euro game, several cooperative games, Monopoly, party games. This is the shelf that I'm like ashamed of in my collection, because these are the boxes that are such weird sizes that I don't know where else to put them. So they go here. Folks, today I want to talk to you real briefly about something that I've touched on before, but I want to talk a little bit more about Essen right now. Now, what you're going to see with Essen is you're going to see all sorts of different reactions to the games that came out of Essen. There's two polls that come out of Essen about the games. One is the Fair Play poll, in which people go by that booth and they rank games. I don't remember if it's computerized or written down. It might be written down, but I'm not sure how they do it. And you can go look online and see what the Fair Play poll was of the different games. Now, the other one is Geek Buzz from BoardGameGeek.com, where they have a computer system. Now, the Geek Buzz gets much larger response time to it than the Fair Play does. The Fair Play doesn't get a lot of votes. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because of you're going through a fair, and the effort to stop down and vote probably isn't on most people's minds. Both polls are tainted by a few things, and I'm not saying that there's any kind of underhandedness going on in them, but for example, proximity of the game's booths to the location of the polls is obviously going to be, I just saw this cool game, now I stopped by, vote on the cool game you saw, I just saw it. Also, they tend to often favor shorter games, although I would eat my words if that was the case in this sense, because the Fair Play ones, the top three, were fairly complex games, and even on Geek Buzz, they were fairly complex games. But they also favor first impressions pretty powerfully. So what I would recommend, if you're looking for some new games, because you really can't get the 500 games that just came out. How are you supposed to know which ones are good? Well, I mean, obviously, we could be self-serving and say, watch the Dice Tower reviews, but in essence, that's what you should do. Maybe not just the Dice Tower reviews. I mean, all sorts of reviews. It's not that you have to have this stuff now. Wait and see which stuff is the best. You say, well, Vasel, what about the stuff that sells out really quickly? If something sells out really quickly and it was really that good, then it will be reprinted probably in a cooler package. For example, Patch History and some of the Japone brand games sold out at the fair itself. There wasn't very many of them, and some of them people are raving about. Well, if people are raving about them and want them, there's a good chance the game will be produced in possibly a nicer package. So just hang on and wait for that in those spots. Also with Geek Buzz does the Geek Buzz twice. They do it at Essen, but they also do it at Board Game Geek Convention, which I'm going to be at, by the way. Hope to see some of you there. And at the Board Game Geek Convention, it's a 4-day event where people are sitting down and just playing games the entire time. And a 5-day event, and people are just sitting down and playing games the whole time. And because you can sit down and play games the whole time, they have a Geek Buzz there too. You're going to see probably a better reaction. It's not as much first impressions as it is people have had a few weeks. So look over the games. They've been able to sit down and play the games. So that's one that you should pay attention to. Besides, a lot of these games aren't going to be making it for those in my American audience, they're not going to be making it to our shores for several weeks now. So you have an opportunity to kind of grasp, take that giant list, winnow it down to something that the games that you want to play, watch reviews, read reviews, learn about these games, and then you'll find ones that are fantastic. That's it, folks. We have a lot of work to do. I got to build this giant box maze. I got lots of things coming on, but stay tuned, because next week I'll be announcing the Jack Vasel Memorial Fund auction. That's going to be starting November 6th, so keep that in mind. There's all sorts of great things coming up. We'll be doing Christmas guide lists coming up soon. November is here. For those of us in America, we're about to get an extra hour of sleep this upcoming weekend, so it gives me a chance to get a couple more reviews done. Anyway, until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to dicetower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.